So today we're going to look at some starter projects for the microbit. So the first project we're going to look at, we're going to create a project which displays some emojis. So when the A button is pressed, we're going to show a happy face. When the B button is pressed, we're going to show a sad face. And when the A and B buttons are pressed together, we're going to show an expressionless face. So we'll go to makecode.com now and create a project to do this. So again, when we go to makecode.com, we're just going to select to code for the microbit, and that brings us into our microbit environment. So we're going to create a new project. Which is just taking a little bit of time. And again, when we come in here, we have the onStart and the forever blocks. And remember, if we want to get rid of those blocks, we can just pick them up, drag them into the middle, and drop them into the bin. So in this case, we're not using the onStart or the forever, so we're just going to get rid of them. So remember, we go to input for on button A pressed. So I'm just going to select the on button A pressed. And then we're going to go back to basic. So remember, when the A button is pressed, we want to show a happy face. So I'm just going to show icon. And I click, so icon is in basic here. So just show icon. So just pull that across. And then we can change the icon that we're displaying just by simply pressing on the arrow, and then I'm just going to select the happy face here. If I go back to input, so that's on button A pressed, show a happy face. If I go back to input, I'm going to pull across the on button A pressed again. Now remember, if I pull that across, and I already have an on button A pressed, which I have here, it goes grey to just indicate that this is never going to be run. But if I click on the arrow and just change the A to B, now it's going to code the on button B pressed. So this is going to check if the B button is pressed. I go back to basic because remember, when the B button is pressed, I want to show a sad face. So I'm just going to select that. And then I'm going to click the arrow here again, and I'm going to do a sad face. So I'm just going to test this and just see, does it work? So when the A button is pressed, it shows me a happy face. When the B button is pressed, it shows me a sad face. And then finally, I'm going to go to input again. I'm going to pull across on button A pressed. I'm going to change the A to A plus B. And this time, I'm going to, instead of showing an icon, I'm just going to pull across LEDs, show LEDs, and I'm just going to create my own base here. So I'm just going to put in two eyes, and I'm just going to put in a straight across mouth. So now you'll notice, once I've brought in the A and B button pressed here, you'll notice on your simulator again that you've got it in A plus B, which will simulate the pressing of the two buttons together. So if I press the A button, it shows me a happy face, B button shows me a sad face, and the A and B shows me the expressionless face. So that's our basic starter project. So what we're going to do now is we're going to save it, we're going to download it, and transfer it onto the microbit. So I'm just going to go through that with you. And what I'm then going to do is when we come back into MakeCode, I'm going to show you how you can actually upload a hex file that you already have. So for example, I've shared some hex files on the Moodle page with you, so you should be able to download those onto your machine and then re-upload them back into MakeCode, and you can have a look and see how they work. So I'm going to give it a name, and I'm going to call it Emojis. So it's really important that we give it a name that means something. So when you go back to it again, you'll know exactly what it is. So I'm going to give it the name Emojis. I'm going to save it. And remember, when I save it, it saves to my file, my downloads folder. So we're going to go to File Explorer and have a look at that. So when we go to our downloads folder in File Explorer, we'll see that we've got our microbit emojis here. So it's always downloaded to the downloads folder. And then remember, I was talking to you about, if you want to save these projects, the easiest way to do it is to create a folder, maybe within your documents, or you can have an OneDrive or a Google Drive folder, and you can just save them all to there, and maybe just, make sure and give them a proper name. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to connect the microbit. So once I connect the microbit, you should see it coming up here on the left hand side. So it's a drive. So I'm going to just pick up the microbit. So it's just doing a virus scan there. No threats detected. So I'm just going to pick up the hex file here. I'm going to drop it onto the microbit drive, and that will then copy it. So you'll see that it's copying. When you've got the microbit connected, you'll see that there's a yellow light flashing on the microbit, and that indicates that it's copying your hex file across. When it's completed, the yellow light will stay on. When it's copying, it will just keep flickering. Now what happens now is that on the microbit now is that hex file that we have, and it's really important to remember as well, there is only ever one hex file on a microbit at any given point in time. So when you copy something across, it overwrites whatever is on there. So if I press the A button on the microbit now, it shows me a happy face. If I press the B button, it shows a sad face. And if I press the two of them together, it shows that expressionless face. Once I have it copied across to the microbit, I can detach it. So I can take out the USB. I can attach a battery pack to the microbit, and that will then allow me to test it or to use the microbit without being attached. So it's a portable device. So let's just look at the steps that we have to go through to download to the microbit. So when we save our project in makecode.com, it downloads the hex file to the downloads folder. We connect our microbit via USB to our machine, and then you take that hex file, so in our case it was microbit-emojis. And remember, when you give it a name, it always puts microbit and the dash beforehand, so you can find them very easily in your downloads folder if you have a lot of downloaded material. You take that hex file, you copy it across to the microbit drive, and then when that is happening, you can see it copying. Once it's finished, then it's on the microbit, and then you can use that program on the microbit. And again, just a reminder, there's only ever one project on the microbit at any given point in time, so it just overwrites whatever is there. So now that we've downloaded onto the microbit, I just want to come back into makecode.com and just show you a couple of things. If I click on home now, it brings me back and it shows me the projects that I've been working on. So if I click on the emojis project that I've just finished, it will bring that project back up, and I can make changes or test it again. If I go back to home, I get this option here to import. So I just want to show you how you can import a hex file. So one that you already have, that you can import it into makecode.com. So if I click on import, you can either import a file or import a URL. I'm going to look at import file here. So you can open files from your computer. So if I import file and do choose file, if I go to my downloads, I can pick my microbit emojis.hex, or what I might do is I might just show you the tally counter that we worked on in the workshop. So if I click on microbit tally counter, which I've made available on Moodle, I can just open that and then just choose go ahead, and that just allows me now to have a look at that project and make any changes that I want to it. So it's just very useful. If I share some hex files with you on our Moodle page, then you can download those onto your machine, and then you can re-upload them into your makecode.com. So we'll just have a look at the second project that we're going to do now. And that second project is an alternating emojis project. So again, we're going to create a new project. We're going to call it alternating emojis. And this time when the A button is pressed, we're going to show a sad face, we're going to pause, and then we're going to show a happy face. And when the B button is pressed, we're going to start off with a happy face, we're going to pause, and then we're going to show a sad face. So we'll just go to makecode.com now and code this project. So we'll just go to home here. We'll create a new project. So remember, in this project, we want to code for the A button and the B button. So we're not going to use the on start, and we're not going to use the forever. So we go to input and we find our on button A pressed. And then we're going to go to basic and we're going to show an icon. So with the A button, we are going to show a sad face first. And then we're going to show a happy face. Now I'm going to put it in this way first, and I'm just going to do some testing and just show you what happens. So if I click the A button here now, it's showing the sad face and the happy face, but it's happening really quickly, so it's very hard to see the sad face. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put in a very slight pause. So if I go into basic, there's this pause here, pause in milliseconds, and it's 100 milliseconds is the default, but you can change that. So if I pull that across and put it in between, so that's going to pause for 1/10 of a second. Now if I press my A button, you'll see that you've got your sad face and then a very slight pause and then a happy face, but you can see both of them. So next we're going to code for the B button pressed, and I'm just going to duplicate this code because mostly it's the same thing. So it's on B button pressed, we have to show an icon, pause, and then show a different icon. So I'm just going to right click on the on button A pressed. It gives me the option to duplicate again. Remember, it goes grey because you can only have one on button A pressed. If I click on the A and make it B, then I want to change it so that it's a happy face first, then a pause, and then a sad face. So now let's do our testing. So with the B button, I've got happy face, then sad face. And then with the A button, I've got sad face, then happy face. Now again, notice there, when I did the B button first, it had happy, then sad. And then when I did the A button, it had sad, then happy. It doesn't look like when you go from one to the other because I'm doing the opposite. But if I actually restart the simulator and show the B, so show B, it's showing happy, then sad. Then I restart and I show A, it's happy, it's sad, then happy. Again, restart, happy, then sad, restart, sad, then happy. So just be careful of that when you're doing your testing. So that's our second project. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to call it alternating emojis. And I'm going to save that. And when I save it, it's going to go to my downloads folder. So I'm going to connect my microbit again, and I'm going to copy it across. So I'm going to go to documents here again, and I'm going to go to my downloads. I'm going to connect my microbit. So once I connect the microbit folder shows. It does the virus scan, and then I've got my alternating emojis here. I pick it up and I copy it across. And again, it's showing what it's doing. It's showing that it's almost complete. Now it's complete. If I press my A button, it shows me a sad face, then a happy face. If I press my B button, it shows me a happy face and then a sad face. So that's our second starter project. So now we're going to have a look at our third starter project. So in this project, we're going to do just a very simple picking a random number. And we had a look at this in the workshop on Saturday, but I'm just going to remind you of how to do that again. Now, in this case, we're just picking a random number from 0 to 9. So we'll just go to makecode.com and create that project. So we'll just go to Home. We'll create a new project. And again, we don't need our on start and we don't need our forever. So this time we're going to use a different input. We're going to do the on shake, and that just checks to see, has the microbit been shaken? So it detects when the microbit has been shaken. And when it's been shaken, we're going to just pick a random number. We're going to show a random number. So I'm going to go to basic. I'm going to pull across show number. And then I'm going to go down to the math blocks here. And if you go to the math block, if you just go down a little bit, so there's a lot of different maths functions here. And you'll find the pick random 0 to 10. So I just drag that in and drop it on top of the 0. And this time I'm just picking a random number from 0 to 9. So you'll notice again on the simulator here that when I put in the on shake, it gives me this shake button here, which simulates the shaking of the microbit. Now you'll see that it does move around a little bit, but actually the shake button is better because on the simulator it can be hard to get a real shake of the microbit. So if you just click the button, so it did 3 and then it shook again, 2 and 7 and 0. So it's just giving me random numbers between 0 and 9, which can be very useful when you're creating projects with your students. So you can have a dice, so you can simulate the throwing of a dice. You can simulate the tossing of a coin by picking a random number between 0 and 1 and then saying if it's 0 then maybe it's a head, if it's 1 it's a tail. Or you can simulate the throwing of a dice by picking a random number between 1 and 6, and we've had a look at that at the workshop as well. So that's the third of the starter projects. So if you try and get those starter projects working, and then see how you get on with those. And that's really just taking you through the main things we've been looking at. There are just the basic blocks. So we've been showing a number, we've been showing icons, we've been showing LEDs, and also just some of the inputs. So we've looked at on button A pressed, on button B pressed, on the two of them together. And in this project here, we've been looking at the on shake. So hopefully you get on okay with those projects.